Yeah, you see him. He says, I want to touch it, Mom. I want to touch it. He says it's got something that I've never seen before and I need it.
I remember when the doctor came in and you could just tell. And the first thing she said, she goes, "You have a very, very sick baby."
I had received a call from my wife frantically telling me, hey, you need to get to the hospital ASAP. My thoughts were racing. I was fearing the worst. Sure enough, once I got there, she, in tears, told me to sit down.
And that was probably one of the hardest things, was having to tell them that our kiddo had cancer and that they were starting chemotherapy the very next day.
4 rounds at least before they, would prep us for ultimately a bone marrow transplant. I don't know how to describe it, but it just didn't seem real. Like, everything was so surreal.
And so we went into transplant. Weston did perfect with it. It was like a blood transfusion, and he did really well all through the transplant.
And then another dose of bad news hit us. We were informed that he had relapsed, and I couldn't process it. Like, I thought things had been going well. It was devastating news for our family.
During our consult, when they were telling us about his treatment options going forward, they brought up an MRI. And the doctor led with that in our conference. She goes, well, we got the MRI results back, and they don't look good. It's not good news. And she said there are solid leukemia cells that have formed a solid little mass there, and it is wrapping around his eye. And she showed us the picture, and I remember seeing that picture, and just breaking down in tears at that point. I knew then that it was gonna be a harder road.
We knew what we were getting ourselves into with the relapse and the second rounds of chemo and eventual transplant, and to add that on top of that, it's just...
And hopefully our goal now is to get him to a second transplant to give him a chance. When we got his diagnosis, I started worrying about, how are we gonna afford this? How are we gonna afford his care? How are we gonna deal with the time off work? One of the bigger things was trying to stay close to the hospital.
What Ronald McDonald House has done for us, it's incredible, to say the least. It just gave us a place to heal. It was an oasis among the chaos.
Taking the load off of having a warm bed to sleep in, having dinner downstairs and lunch and breakfast available.
Looking at alternatives nearby. If we wanted to stay in a hotel, you're looking at, through the course of our stay, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars we've saved.
It just kind of took that off our plate and really helped us focus on what mattered, which was our little boy. It's kind of crazy how when you get a diagnosis like Weston's, you learn how much of a community you really have. It's been eye-opening to see what all they do for families. It's not just a room. It's so much more than that. I like to think of it as like we've been treading water and they're that lifeboat that comes and picks you up. Our life definitely isn't normal anymore, so everything is just so up in the air. And Ronald McDonald House has created something constant for us, and that is everything. When you have a diagnosis like this, having something that you can just have as a base and a foundation to cling on to when it gets hard is everything. It is everything to us.